Writing. Stop giving a shot. For the YouTube channel, Inner Steel. Stop giving people unlimited chances to hurt you. At some point, forgiveness becomes a pattern. Patience becomes permission. And giving someone one more shot becomes the very reason they keep treating you the same way. You keep telling yourself, maybe this time will be different. But how many times does this time have to fail before you finally accept the truth? Welcome back to Inner Steel. Today, we're talking about something that can completely change the way you deal with people: disappointment, disrespect, betrayal, and wasted energy. Stop giving a shot to what has already shown you what it is. Not because you are cruel. Not because you hate people. Not because you have become cold. But because you finally understand that your peace has value. If you are ready to become mentally stronger, calmer, harder to manipulate, and more disciplined with your attention, subscribe to Inner Steel and stay with us. Because this is not about becoming heartless. It is about becoming wise. 1. Stop confusing forgiveness with access. There is something many people never learn. You can forgive someone without giving them the same access to you. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself from carrying the weight of resentment. Access is about deciding who gets to be close to you. Those are two completely different things. Imagine someone repeatedly lies to you. The first time you confront them, they apologize. You forgive them. The second time, they lie again. They apologize again. You forgive them again. The third time, they do exactly the same thing. And somehow, you are still standing there saying, I just want to give them another chance. Why? Because you have confused being a good person with having no boundaries. There was a man who worked with someone he considered a close friend. They had spent years together. They shared ideas, opportunities, and personal conversations. One day, the friend betrayed his confidence. The man was hurt, but he forgave him. Months later, the same thing happened again. He forgave him again. Then it happened a third time. This time, instead of arguing, he simply changed the relationship. He stopped sharing private information. He stopped depending on him. He remained respectful. But the friendship was no longer what it had been. Someone asked him, Why aren't you angry? He answered, I am not angry. I am educated. That is maturity. You don't need to hate someone to stop giving them access to your life. Sometimes the strongest response is simply reducing access. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can forgive them without trusting them again. You can love someone without allowing them to repeatedly damage your peace. And you can walk away without announcing your departure. This is where many people become trapped. They think that if they forgive someone, they have to return everything to the way it was. No. Forgiveness can close a chapter. It does not have to reopen the door. 2. Stop giving endless chances to repeated behavior. Everyone makes mistakes. That is important to remember. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. People misunderstand things. People lose their temper. People sometimes make terrible decisions. A single mistake does not always reveal someone's character. But repeated behavior is different. A mistake says, I failed. A repeated pattern says, I am choosing this. And you have to learn the difference. A young man once kept lending money to a friend. Every time the friend promised to repay him. Every time, another excuse appeared. My salary was delayed. My family needed help. I will pay you next week. The young man kept believing him. Eventually, he realized something. The problem wasn't that his friend needed help. The problem was that his friend had learned that there were no consequences for breaking his word. So the young man stopped lending money. The friend became angry. He said, I thought we were friends. The young man replied, We are. But friendship does not mean I have to keep repeating the same mistake. That sentence contains a powerful lesson. Sometimes people become angry when your boundaries finally interrupt the benefits they were receiving from your lack of boundaries. Do not mistake their anger for proof that your boundary is wrong. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, pay attention. If someone repeatedly lies to you, pay attention. If someone repeatedly breaks promises, pay attention. If someone repeatedly manipulates your emotions, pay attention. You don't need another dramatic explanation. The pattern is the explanation. 3. Stop trying to prove that you deserve respect. One of the most exhausting things you can do is try to convince someone to respect you. Think about that. You explain yourself. You defend yourself. You argue. You send long messages. You explain your intentions. You remind them of everything you have done for them. And after all of that, they still treat you badly. Why? Because respect cannot be negotiated through desperation. You don't become more valuable because you explain your value louder. A man once entered a new workplace where one colleague constantly tried to undermine him. At first, he defended himself every time. If the colleague made a comment, he responded. If the colleague questioned his ability, he explained. If the colleague tried to embarrass him, he argued. Eventually, he became exhausted. Then he changed his approach. He stopped reacting. He focused on his work. He documented what mattered. He improved his skills. He became consistent. Months later, the same colleague had nothing meaningful to attack. The man had learned something important. Your results can answer questions your arguments never will. You don't have to prove yourself to everyone. Sometimes you simply need to become so disciplined that their opinion becomes irrelevant. 4. Stop giving your peace to people who don't deserve it. Your attention is a form of currency. Every time you obsess over someone, you spend something. Every time you replay an argument in your head, you spend something. Every time you check whether someone has viewed your message, you spend something. Every time you wonder why they changed, why they ignored you, why they didn't appreciate you, you spend something. And the dangerous part is that you may be spending your attention on someone who isn't thinking about you at all. Imagine having a wallet full of money and handing it to strangers every morning. You would eventually become broke. But people do something similar with their attention. They give it away freely. They give it to gossip. They give it to jealousy. They give it to people who insult them. They give it to people who rejected them. They give it to people who already walked away. Then they wonder why they have no energy left for themselves. Protect your attention. When someone tries to pull you into unnecessary drama, ask, "Is this worth my peace?" If the answer is no, don't participate. You don't have to attend every argument you are invited to. 5. Stop chasing people who have already shown you their priority. There is a difference between making an effort and chasing someone. Effort is healthy. Chasing is exhausting. If you call someone once and they are busy, that's normal. If you reach out again later, that's normal. But if you are constantly initiating, constantly checking, constantly asking what happened, constantly trying to earn their attention, you need to step back. A woman once spent months trying to save a friendship. She sent messages. She apologized. She asked what she had done wrong. She tried to fix everything. Eventually, she stopped. Not because she suddenly stopped caring. She stopped because she realized she was trying to repair a relationship that only one person wanted. A few weeks passed. The friend came back. And this time, she did not rush to restore the old relationship. She listened. She observed. She asked herself, "Has anything actually changed?" That question is powerful. Don't measure change by apologies. Measure it by behavior. Anyone can say, "I'm sorry." Change says, "I won't keep doing this." 6. Stop explaining your boundaries over and over. A boundary is not a debate. If you tell someone, "I don't want to be spoken to like that," you don't need to write a 10-page explanation. If they continue, your next move should not necessarily be another explanation. It may be distance. There was a man whose relative constantly insulted him during family gatherings. The first few times he laughed it off. Eventually he calmly said, "Don't speak to me that way." The relative laughed. The next time, it happened again. The man didn't argue. He simply left the conversation. The following gathering, it happened again. He left again. Eventually, the behavior stopped around him. Why? Because the boundary finally had an action attached to it. A boundary without action is often just a request. Your life teaches people how to interact with you through what you repeatedly tolerate. You don't control other people's behavior, but you control what you continue participating in. 7. Stop taking silence as a sign that you should try harder. Sometimes silence is an answer. Not always. But sometimes. Someone may stop responding. They may become distant. They may stop making an effort. And you may spend weeks trying to understand why. You send another message. Then another. You ask mutual friends. You analyze old conversations. You look for clues. Meanwhile, the simplest answer may be standing in front of you. They are choosing distance. And you have to respect people's choices. If someone doesn't want to communicate, you cannot force communication. If someone doesn't want the relationship, you cannot create it alone. If someone walks away, chasing them rarely creates genuine connection. A man once waited outside a friend's workplace because the friendship had suddenly changed. He wanted an explanation. When the friend finally came outside, the conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. There was no dramatic revelation. The friend simply said, "I don't think I want to continue this friendship." The man was devastated. But after he went home, he realized something. He had spent weeks fighting for an answer that ultimately did not change the decision. Sometimes closure isn't an explanation. Sometimes closure is accepting reality. 8. Stop trying to rescue people who refuse to change. You can support someone. You can encourage someone. You can give advice. You can help someone when they are struggling. But you cannot change someone who is committed to remaining the same. A mother spent years trying to help her adult son become responsible. She paid his bills. She fixed his mistakes. She covered for him. She gave him advice. She kept rescuing him. Every time he made another bad decision, she cleaned up the consequences. Eventually, she stopped rescuing him. She didn't stop loving him. She stopped protecting him from every consequence. At first, he became angry. Then something changed. For the first time, he had to face his own decisions. That is sometimes the hardest form of love. Not doing everything for someone. Letting them experience the consequences necessary for growth. You are not responsible for saving everyone. You can care without carrying. 9. Stop giving your future to your past. Some people are physically gone but mentally present every day. You don't speak to them anymore. But you argue with them in your head. You imagine what you should have said. You imagine what they should have said. You replay what happened. You wonder how things could have been different. And while your mind lives in yesterday, your life is waiting in today. A man lost an important relationship years earlier. For a long time, he kept thinking about it. One evening, he looked through old messages and realized something. He was trying to get a different ending from a story that had already ended. So he deleted the messages. Not because the memories meant nothing. Because his future meant more. You cannot build tomorrow while constantly reopening yesterday. Learn from the past. Don't live there. 10. Stop giving yourself permission to remain small. Sometimes the person you need to stop giving a shot is yourself. You keep giving yourself another excuse. I'll start tomorrow. I'll exercise next week. I'll read when I'm less busy. I'll change when things calm down. I'll build the channel later. I'll become disciplined when I feel motivated. And tomorrow keeps becoming next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes another year. There was a man who kept saying he wanted to write a book. For 10 years he talked about it. He bought notebooks. He watched videos. He made plans. But he never consistently wrote. One morning, he finally understood. He didn't need another plan. He needed to stop giving himself another excuse. So he wrote 1 page. Then another. Eventually, the book existed. Not because motivation appeared. Because he stopped negotiating with himself. Sometimes discipline begins when you stop giving yourself another shot at procrastination. 11. Stop needing everyone to understand you. You will be misunderstood. That is part of life. Someone will interpret your silence as arrogance. Someone will interpret your confidence as pride. Someone will interpret your boundaries as selfishness. Someone will interpret your distance as hatred. You cannot control every interpretation. A man once made a major career decision that his friends didn't understand. He spent months explaining why he made the decision. Eventually, he stopped. He realized that the people who truly cared about him did not need a courtroom presentation. They might disagree, but they respected his right to choose. You don't need universal approval. You need integrity. If your conscience is clear, you don't have to spend your life correcting every misunderstanding. 12. Stop giving your emotions the final word. Feeling something does not mean you must act on it. You can feel angry and remain silent. You can feel rejected and continue moving. You can feel afraid and still act. You can feel hurt and refuse revenge. That is emotional strength. A man received an insulting message one night. His first instinct was to respond immediately. His fingers were already moving. Then he stopped. He put the phone down. He went to sleep. The next morning, he read the message again. It no longer had the same power. He realized that anger had been trying to make a permanent decision using a temporary emotion. Never allow a temporary emotion to control a permanent decision. Pause. Breathe. Think. Then choose. That pause is where your power lives. 13. Stop rewarding disrespect with more attention. Some people learn that disrespect gets them attention. They provoke you. You respond. They insult you. You argue. They disappear. You chase them. They return. The cycle continues. You have to break the cycle. If someone repeatedly uses disrespect to control your attention, stop participating. You don't have to become rude. You don't have to insult them back. You don't have to prove that you're stronger. You simply stop rewarding the behavior. A student had a classmate who constantly made jokes at his expense. At first, he reacted every time. The classmate loved it. Then one day, the student simply looked at him and said, "Okay." Nothing else. No anger. No argument. No explanation. The jokes slowly stopped. Why? Because there was no emotional reward anymore. Sometimes your calmness removes the fuel from someone else's behavior. 14. Stop giving second chances to people who never gave you a first chance. There are people who never believed in you. They mocked your goals. They laughed at your ambition. They disappeared when you struggled. Then, when you begin succeeding, suddenly they want to be close. Be careful. Success can reveal relationships that hardship hid. A young entrepreneur once struggled for years. Nobody wanted to help. When his business finally became successful, people who had ignored him started inviting him to events. Some suddenly called him brother. He didn't become bitter. He simply remembered. He didn't punish anyone. But he didn't forget the lessons either. You don't have to hate people from your past. Just don't let nostalgia erase evidence. 15. Stop giving your time to people who only call when they need something. Notice who contacts you when they need help. Notice who disappears when you need support. Notice who remembers your number when they want something. Relationships should not feel like emergency services where you only exist when someone needs rescue. A man noticed that a friend contacted him every time he needed money, transportation, advice, or a favor. But whenever the man needed support, the friend was unavailable. One day he said no. The friend became angry. The man didn't argue. He simply realized that the relationship had been one-sided. Your kindness should not require self-abandonment. Help people when you genuinely want to help. But don't make yourself permanently available to people who treat your availability as an obligation. 16. Stop trying to win people who have already chosen against you. Not everyone is meant to like you. Not everyone will support you. Not everyone will understand your vision. And that's okay. There was a young athlete who desperately wanted the approval of a coach who constantly criticized him. He trained harder. He stayed later. He tried to impress the coach. Nothing changed. Eventually, he stopped training for approval. He trained because he wanted to become better. That changed everything. His performance improved. His confidence improved. And strangely enough, the coach eventually respected him. But by then, the approval was no longer necessary. That is freedom. When you stop needing approval, you become difficult to control. 17. Stop giving explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. Some people don't want an explanation. They want ammunition. You explain yourself. They twist your words. You clarify. They find another accusation. You clarify again. They create another problem. Eventually, you realize the conversation was never about understanding. It was about control. Don't keep entering a courtroom where the verdict was decided before you arrived. You are allowed to say, "I've explained my position," and stop. Silence is sometimes the strongest ending. 18. Stop allowing guilt to control your boundaries. Some people will make you feel guilty for saying no. You've changed. You used to help me. I thought you cared. You're selfish. Maybe you have changed. Maybe that's the point. Growth often requires changing the behaviors that made other people comfortable. A man used to answer every phone call immediately. Everyone knew they could reach him at any hour. Then he started protecting his evenings. Some people complained. But he discovered something. People who respected him adjusted. People who benefited from his lack of boundaries complained. That distinction matters. Guilt doesn't always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt simply means you're doing something unfamiliar. 19. Stop begging for reciprocity. If you constantly have to ask someone to care, something is wrong. If you constantly have to ask for respect, something is wrong. If you constantly have to ask for communication, something is wrong. Healthy relationships don't require perfection. But they require mutual effort. A man once realized that every important conversation in his relationship was initiated by him. Every apology came from him. Every plan came from him. Every attempt to repair things came from him. One day, he stopped initiating. Nothing happened. That silence taught him more than months of arguments. Sometimes the absence of effort is itself information. 20. Stop giving yourself a shot at self-sabotage. You cannot build a strong life while constantly undermining yourself. Stop saying, "I am not good enough. I always fail. People like me don't succeed. I can't change." These thoughts may feel familiar, but familiarity doesn't make them true. A young man failed an important exam. He immediately told himself he was stupid. His mentor asked him, "Did you fail the exam, or did you become a failure?" The young man understood. Failure is an event. It is not an identity. You can fail without becoming a failure. You can lose without becoming a loser. You can struggle without being weak. Never turn one bad chapter into the title of your entire life. 21. Stop seeking revenge. Revenge feels powerful for a moment. But peace is stronger. Someone hurts you, and you want them to hurt too. You want them to regret losing you. You want them to see you succeed. You want them to feel what you felt. But eventually you realize that revenge still keeps them at the center of your life. The strongest revenge is not destruction. It is detachment. A man was betrayed by someone he trusted. For months, he imagined ways to get even. Then he decided to build instead. He focused on his work, his health, his family, his future. Years later, he barely remembered the anger. That was his victory. He didn't defeat the person. He defeated the version of himself that wanted revenge. 22. Stop giving your attention to people who want a reaction. Some people don't care whether the reaction is positive or negative. They simply want access to your emotions. They want to know they can push a button and make you angry. Don't give them the button. Imagine someone throwing a stone into a lake. The stone creates waves. But eventually, the water becomes still again. Be like that. Something happens. You observe. You breathe. You decide. Then you return to yourself. That is emotional control. 23. Stop giving people your personal plans too early. Not everyone needs to know what you're building. Some dreams need silence. A man once told everyone about his business idea. People criticized it. Some laughed. Some discouraged him. He became so focused on defending the idea that he stopped working on it. Later, he learned a valuable lesson. You don't need to announce every seed before it becomes a tree. Work quietly. Let results speak. You don't owe everyone access to your plans. 24. Stop giving energy to comparison. Comparison is another form of giving your life away. Someone has more money. Someone has a better body. Someone has a larger house. Someone has more subscribers. Someone seems happier. Someone is ahead. But you don't know their full story. A runner once became obsessed with another athlete's progress. He spent more time watching the other runner than improving himself. His coach finally said, "You cannot win your race while staring at another runner's lane." That sentence changed him. Focus on your lane. Your progress. Your discipline. Your journey. 25. Stop waiting for people to give you closure. Closure is often something you give yourself. You may never receive the apology you deserve. You may never hear the explanation you wanted. You may never understand why someone changed. You may never get the final conversation. And yet life still moves forward. A woman waited years for an apology from someone who had hurt her. One day, she realized she had placed her healing in the hands of the person who caused the wound. She took it back. That is what closure can be. Not forgetting. Not pretending. Simply deciding. I will not allow this event to control the rest of my life. 26. Stop giving everyone the benefit of the doubt forever. Giving someone the benefit of the doubt is good. Doing it endlessly is dangerous. The first time, perhaps there is an explanation. The second time, perhaps there is another. But eventually, you must look at the evidence. A person once kept missing important commitments. Every time, there was a reason. Eventually, their friends stopped asking for promises. Not because he was angry. Because he had learned to judge reliability through consistency. Words matter. But patterns matter more. 27. Stop giving yourself another year of the same life. Imagine waking up 1 year from today. Everything is exactly the same. Same habits. Same excuses. Same distractions. Same people. Same fears. Same lack of discipline. Would you be satisfied? If not, today matters. You don't need to transform your entire life in 1 day. But you need to stop giving yourself permission to remain unchanged. Start small. Wake up earlier. Read. Exercise. Learn. Save. Build. Pray. Reflect. Work. Repeat. A powerful life is usually built through ordinary actions repeated for a long time. 28. Stop giving yourself away to distractions. Your phone can consume hours. Social media can consume attention. Arguments can consume energy. Entertainment can consume your goals. None of these things are automatically bad. But anything you cannot control eventually controls you. A man decided to spend 1 hour every evening learning a skill instead of scrolling. At first, it felt insignificant. 1 hour. Then another. After 6 months, he had developed a skill that changed his income. The difference wasn't talent. It was attention. Your future is being built from what you repeatedly give your attention to. Be careful what receives it. 29. Stop giving your confidence to other people's opinions. Someone says you're not capable. You believe them. Someone says your dream is stupid. You believe them. Someone says you'll fail. You believe them. But why should another person's prediction become your destiny? A young man told his friends he wanted to start a business. They laughed. He started anyway. The business failed the first time. He started again. It failed again. He learned. He improved. Eventually, he succeeded. The people who laughed weren't responsible for his success. And they weren't responsible for his failure. He was. That is the mindset you need. Listen to advice. Learn from criticism. But don't surrender your identity to someone else's opinion. 30. Stop giving yourself an excuse to quit too early. Sometimes you don't need a new path. You need more endurance. You start something. It becomes difficult. You quit. You start something else. It becomes difficult. You quit again. Eventually, you think you are unlucky. But perhaps you simply never stayed long enough. A man planted a tree in his backyard. For months, it seemed like nothing was happening. He almost gave up. But beneath the ground, roots were developing. Not all progress is visible. Your life may be developing beneath the surface. Don't destroy the process because you cannot yet see the result. 31. Stop giving your heart to people who only give you confusion. Healthy relationships can have difficult moments. But constant confusion is exhausting. One day they love you. The next day they ignore you. One day they want you close. The next day they push you away. You spend all your time asking, "What are we? Where do I stand? What did I do?" When someone consistently creates confusion, don't make confusion your home. You deserve clarity. You deserve respect. You deserve consistency. 32. Stop giving yourself to people who only take. Relationships should have balance. If you are always giving and they are always taking, eventually you become empty. Your time, your money, your energy, your advice, your support, your emotional strength. Ask yourself, what happens when I need something? If the answer is always nothing, pay attention. 33. Stop giving your word to things you won't do. Your relationship with yourself matters. If you tell yourself you will wake up at 6, and you repeatedly ignore it, you teach yourself that your own word means nothing. If you say you will exercise, but constantly negotiate with yourself, your confidence weakens. Self-trust is built through keeping promises to yourself. Start making smaller promises. Then keep them. Don't promise to change your entire life overnight. Promise yourself one disciplined action. Then do it. Again. And again. Eventually, you become someone you can trust. 34. Stop giving your life to fear. Fear will always have a reason. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if it doesn't work? What if I lose money? What if I look foolish? But fear does not disappear because you wait. Sometimes you have to move while afraid. A man wanted to speak publicly but was terrified. His first presentation was terrible. His hands shook. His voice trembled. People noticed. But he came back. The second time was better. The 10th time was different. Eventually, speaking became normal. Confidence did not come before action. Action created confidence. 35. Stop giving every problem a permanent place in your mind. Some problems deserve action. Others deserve acceptance. But constantly thinking about a problem is not the same as solving it. If there is something you can do, do it. If there is something you cannot control, release it. That distinction is one of the foundations of inner strength. You don't need to solve tomorrow today. You don't need to carry next year's problems tonight. Stay with what is in front of you. 36. Stop giving people the power to define your worth. Your worth is not determined by who stayed. It is not determined by who left. It is not determined by how many people admire you. It is not determined by your income. It is not determined by your appearance. It is not determined by one failure. Your value cannot be placed entirely in someone else's hands. A man lost his job and felt worthless. For months, he struggled with his identity. Then he realized he had lost a position. He had not lost himself. That distinction helped him rebuild. You are more than your current circumstances. 37. Stop giving the same problem the same response. If the same thing keeps happening, examine your response. Maybe you keep arguing. Maybe you keep chasing. Maybe you keep forgiving without boundaries. Maybe you keep trusting without evidence. Maybe you keep returning to the same environment. If you want a different result, something has to change. A man kept getting into arguments with the same type of people. Eventually, he stopped trying to win the argument. He simply disengaged. The arguments disappeared. Sometimes changing your response changes the entire pattern. 38. Stop giving your energy to what you cannot control. You cannot control what people say. You cannot control whether someone likes you. You cannot control the past. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control every outcome. But you can control your preparation, your effort, your attitude, your discipline, your response, your choices. That is where your power lives. Spend your energy there. 39. Stop giving yourself a reason to live without purpose. A life without direction becomes easy to distract. You need something worth building, something worth protecting, something worth becoming. It doesn't have to be famous. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It simply has to matter to you. A father decided that his purpose was becoming a better example for his children. That purpose changed his habits. He woke earlier. He became more patient. He worked harder. He stopped wasting money. He understood that purpose gives discipline a reason. Find your reason. Then protect it. 40. Stop giving people the same version of you after they have shown you who they are. Growth means learning. If someone shows you that they cannot be trusted, learn. If someone shows you that they only appear when they need something, learn. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, learn. Don't become bitter. Become wiser. The goal isn't to walk through life assuming everyone is dangerous. The goal is to stop ignoring evidence. Trust should be built. Respect should be mutual. Access should be earned. 41. Stop giving your peace away to what has already ended. There are doors that close for a reason. You may not understand the reason immediately. But not every closed door needs to be forced open. Sometimes losing someone creates space for becoming someone. Sometimes rejection redirects you. Sometimes failure forces you to develop strength. Sometimes disappointment exposes what you needed to see. A man once lost an opportunity he thought would change his life. Years later, he realized that losing it had forced him toward a completely different path. The path he originally wanted would have limited him. The path he received changed him. Don't assume every ending is punishment. Some endings are redirection. 42. Stop giving yourself permission to live for applause. If you only work when people notice, you will stop when they don't. Learn to work quietly. Train when nobody watches. Read when nobody praises you. Save when nobody knows. Build when nobody believes. Improve when nobody claps. The strongest version of you is usually built in private. The world sees the result. It rarely sees the discipline that created it. 43. Stop giving your attention to insults. An insult only becomes powerful when you allow it to define you. Someone says something negative. You can examine it. If there is truth, learn. If there is no truth, release it. You don't have to carry every word someone throws at you. Imagine walking through a market while strangers shout random things. Would you stop and argue with every person? Of course not. So why do it mentally? Let meaningless words pass. 44. Stop giving your future to comfort. Comfort is pleasant. But too much comfort creates weakness. You want to sleep longer. You want to avoid difficult conversations. You want to stay where everything is familiar. But growth often lives on the other side of discomfort. A young man wanted to become physically stronger. He hated training at first. Every workout was uncomfortable. But slowly, his body adapted. Then his mind adapted. Eventually, the thing he once avoided became part of his identity. Don't worship comfort. Use discomfort as training. 45. Stop giving yourself another excuse to delay your life. There is no perfect time. There will always be something. Bills. Responsibilities. Fear. Doubt. Fatigue. unexpected problems. If you wait until life becomes completely convenient, you may wait forever. Start with what you have. Use what you know. Improve as you go. You don't need perfect conditions. You need movement. 46. Stop giving people power over your mood. Someone ignores you. Your mood changes. Someone praises you. Your mood changes. Someone criticizes you. Your mood changes. Someone compliments you. Your mood changes. If every external event controls your emotional state, you are living without an internal anchor. Build one. Learn to return to yourself. Ask, what do I know? What matters? What is within my control? Then act from that place. 47. Stop giving yourself a reason to hate your own life. You may not have everything you want. But don't overlook what you have. Your health. Your family. Your ability to learn. Your ability to begin again. Your time. Your breath. Your opportunity. Gratitude does not mean you stop improving. It means you stop destroying your present while waiting for a better future. 48. Stop giving everyone a front row seat to your life. Privacy is power. Not secrecy. Privacy. Everyone doesn't need to know your problems. Everyone doesn't need to know your plans. Everyone doesn't need to know your relationship issues. Everyone doesn't need to know your finances. Everyone doesn't need to know what you are working toward. Protect some parts of your life. A quiet life can be a powerful life. 49. Stop giving yourself permission to return to what broke you. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar peace. That's why people return. They know the environment. They know the person. They know the cycle. But familiar doesn't mean healthy. If something repeatedly destroys your confidence, your peace, your discipline, or your self-respect, distance may be necessary. You cannot heal in the same environment that constantly reopens the wound. Sometimes leaving is not weakness. Sometimes leaving is wisdom. 50. Stop giving a shot to what has already cost you yourself. This is where everything comes together. The goal of this message is not to tell you to become cold. It is not telling you to stop forgiving. It is not telling you to stop loving. It is not telling you to distrust everyone. It is telling you to wake up. Pay attention to patterns. Respect yourself. Protect your time. Protect your attention. Protect your peace. Stop giving endless chances to things that repeatedly destroy you. Stop giving endless explanations to people who have already decided not to understand. Stop giving your future to your past. Stop giving your confidence to people's opinions. Stop giving your emotional energy to unnecessary battles. And most importantly, stop abandoning yourself just to keep other people comfortable. You can be kind without being weak. You can forgive without forgetting the lesson. You can love without losing yourself. You can walk away without becoming bitter. You can be silent without being afraid. You can say no without feeling guilty. You can protect your peace without apologizing for having it. And you can become strong without becoming cruel. The strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the person who has finally learned that not everything deserves a reaction. Not everyone deserves access. Not every argument deserves participation. Not every apology deserves immediate trust. Not every opportunity deserves your time. Not every relationship deserves another chance. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every disappointment deserves a lifetime of sadness. And not every person who walks away needs to be chased. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is simply saying, I have seen enough. No anger. No revenge. No speech. No performance. Just clarity. You stop. You learn. You move forward. That is inner steel. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't immediately ask, how can I make them understand? Ask, what does their behavior teach me? The next time someone repeatedly breaks your trust, don't ask, how many more chances should I give? Ask, what boundary have I failed to enforce? The next time someone walks away, don't immediately ask, how do I get them back? Ask, why am I chasing someone who chose to leave? The next time someone insults you, don't ask, how can I destroy them? Ask, why should their words control my peace? And the next time you fail, don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, what can I learn from this? That shift changes everything. Because life becomes lighter when you stop trying to control everyone else and start controlling yourself. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't need everyone to stay. You don't need everyone to approve. You don't need to explain every decision. You don't need revenge. You don't need applause. You need discipline. You need self-respect. You need patience. You need courage. You need clarity. And you need the strength to walk away from what repeatedly asked you to betray yourself. Remember this. Giving someone another chance is generous. Giving them unlimited chances is self-neglect. There is a difference. Learn it. Because the moment you stop giving unlimited access to people who repeatedly hurt you, you create space for something better. Better habits. Better relationships. Better opportunities. Better thinking. Better peace. Better self-respect. Your life changes when your standards change. And your standards change when you finally decide that your peace is not negotiable. So stop giving a shot to what has already shown you the same ending. Stop repeating the same lesson. Stop reopening the same wound. Stop chasing the same person. Stop fighting the same pointless battle. Stop giving your energy to what gives nothing back. Stop abandoning yourself for acceptance. And stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to respect yourself. You already have permission. You always did. Your next chapter doesn't require everyone from your old chapter. Your future doesn't need the approval of your past. You don't need to carry every person you once loved into the life you are building. Some people are lessons. Some are seasons. Some are warnings. Some are blessings. And some are simply people you were never meant to keep forever. Let them go when the time comes. Wish them well if you can. But keep walking. Because your life is still happening. Your story is still being written. Your character is still being built. And every day you choose discipline over distraction, peace over drama, silence over unnecessary reaction, and self-respect over desperate approval, you are becoming stronger. That is what inner steel is about. Not becoming emotionless. Becoming emotionally disciplined. Not becoming heartless. Becoming wise. Not becoming isolated. Becoming selective. Not becoming arrogant. Becoming secure. Not stopping yourself from loving. Stopping yourself from losing who you are while loving someone else. And if this message reached you at the right time, remember one thing. You don't have to keep giving chances to what keeps proving it doesn't deserve them. Sometimes the strongest move is not another attempt. Sometimes the strongest move is acceptance. Sometimes the strongest move is silence. Sometimes the strongest move is distance. And sometimes the strongest move is simply moving forward. So lift your head. Control your mind. Protect your peace. Keep your standards. Build yourself. And never forget. Your attention is valuable. Your time is limited. Your peace is priceless. Don't give them away cheaply. If you want more powerful lessons about discipline, stoicism, emotional control, confidence, self-respect, and building an unshakable mind, subscribe to Inner Steel. Become part of this community. And remember, you don't need to become harder because the world is cruel. You need to become stronger because your life is valuable. Stop giving a shot to what keeps taking pieces of you. Choose yourself. Choose discipline. Choose peace. Choose growth. Choose the person you are becoming. And keep building your inner steel.